Sir Anthony Seldon is here, political biographer and historian of Downing Street. Sir Anthony, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Have you ever seen anything so hapless as this government?
It's certainly not made a great start, has it? And
No.
I think it's made a poor start, and it has to get itself back on tracks, because there comes a point in every Prime Minister's life where they pass a point of no return, and the country loses confidence, and the political establishment loses confidence in them.
Yes.
And if Starmer doesn't start getting on top in the near future, I think he will pass that point of no return.
I fear he's already passed it, because
well, maybe
I know that it's not the ultimate measurement of popularity, but whenever I see his continual tweets and his continual kind of announcements that he puts out on social media, there is literally nothing but abuse under all of it. There is never anybody who says, "Oh, this seems like a good idea." It's always like, you're a liar, you're doing it all wrong, you're not doing what you said you would do, promises that you made you haven't kept. He's really, and his popularity rating is about as low, I think, as any Prime Minister's ever been.
Mike, that is correct. And the problem is, once you make a really bad start as Prime Minister, once you make a really bad start as any kind of leader, it's really hard to get back on track. And he made a bad start because he's got no experience of high-level national politics, of being in charge as opposed to being in opposition. And he also listened to the wrong people. And, he's still listening to the wrong people. So I think he really has to get a grip on boats, get a grip on the economy, and start showing a strong, glad, confident leadership.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem is, generally speaking, for the entire government and other members of the cabinet as well, the sense is that they don't seem qualified. They don't appear to be on top of their brief. They don't speak with candour. They don't speak with authority, really. I mean, let me play you this. This is Rachel Reeves, I think a couple of weeks ago, out of her depth at an Economic Affairs Committee.
At the same time, we also have a challenging economic inheritance with high levels of tax as a share of GDP, historic high levels of government debt, and then also economic growth that really for the last 15 years has been very poor by historical standards because of the weak productivity growth that we've experienced in that period of time.
I mean, that would not fill you with confidence, would it, if you were sitting there thinking, this is the woman stewarding our economy into the next sort of decade?
Well, Mike, the most important thing she needed to do when she became Chancellor and Keir Starmer as Prime Minister is to get growth. Without growth, you get nothing.
Yeah.
And if you then introduce policies as on national insurance that makes it harder for companies to pay for their staff and to take on new workers, then that is such a self-defeating move. So it is all about growth, and the predicament the government is now in would have been avoidable if only they'd started with a much better, more decisive, more optimistic, clear vision for the country, and with a clear sense of people in charge of departments who knew exactly what they're doing. Confidence is much more easily lost than it's gained. But when they did come in, people had confidence after 14 years of Tories, and they took them on their own promise. They believed that they would do the things that they said they would do about rebuilding Britain. So I remain an optimist about this government, but I think they just have to get a grip. Immigration. I mean, what is going on? The European Convention on Human Rights does need to be reformed, and because at the moment it is undermining democracy. Immigration is now the #1 concern of the British electorate. And if you have lawyers and conventions that are stopping the government having trust of people, then you will get riots, you will get a breakdown of confidence in the government and ultimately in democracy. And the pendulum has swung too far in the direction of the individual and too far away from the interests of the state and democracy, for all the compassion one might feel towards the individual caught up in this terrible drama of fleeing, and a lot of them may be illegitimate, but a lot of them are genuine, fleeing persecution. So grip all round, grip on that.
Well, the great thing is they can come here, Sir Anthony, and be persecuted by this government, because that's what they seem to be doing to an awful lot of the citizens of this country.
It's essential that confidence is restored. Now, this is not an easy issue, but Keir Starmer had 3 years to work it out. He could have leveraged his own strengths as a lawyer. Not too many prime ministers have a legal background. You would have expected that in this area, perhaps more than many others, he would have come in with a really strong, clear, compassionate, but very firm view. This is an issue that the government has to get in control of.
But he doesn't have it. Yeah, but he doesn't have it, does he? He doesn't have a firm view on anything, it seems. You know, he seems to flip-flop around. Seeing there suggest, and the figures that we're seeing suggest that he hasn't got on top of this issue yet, and the concerns that this is having on people's confidence, not just in him, not just in his government, but in politics, in Westminster overall. He needs to get the country moving. He needs to get Whitehall moving. He needs to get on top. Yes, he does, but he hasn't done anything right, and I think that's the thing that surprises most people. You're right to say that, you know, when he came in, when Labour came in after 14 years of the Tories, there was a genuine sort of, I think, feeling of goodwill from a lot of people. You know, they knew that they didn't want the Tories. You know, many people say to me now, the Tories lost the election rather than Keir Starmer won it. But he said before he got in the very day of the election, I think it was, you know, we're ready for government in every single department. We are going to be a government of service. We are going to be a government that puts the country first and the party second. We are going to be a government of trust, of truth. We're going to bring grown-ups back to the room. You know, all of these statements that he made, all of which turned out to be complete and utter nonsense, because he was only in for about 3.5 nanoseconds before we found out that he'd been receiving all sorts of goodies from Lord Alley, and that his wife had been in receipt of clothing, and he'd been in receipt of pairs of spectacles and suits, and he was using an apartment of Lord Alley's and pretending it was his house and pretending he was making videos there, you know, and that was the kick-off. And now we've got Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition. She was sitting in this very studio just a week or two ago calling him a liar. You know, and the Prime Minister of this country, regardless of what you may think of him, is a pretty important position. But to have everybody who is around him, who is, you know, in the business of politics, calling him a liar, I would say this is a pretty serious charge, and he has brought it on himself, because he and his cabinet continually tell lies. I mean, Lisa Nandy was on TV this morning claiming that she's reduced our energy bills, which clearly hasn't happened, and that the one-in, one-out deal is going to somehow reduce our problem with migration, which it certainly isn't going to do.
So let me finish by saying that democracy is fragile. Democracy is on retreat all around the world, and for it to succeed, you need to have women and men in charge who have confidence, who have honesty, who are learning from the best. And I think if I could point to one major mistake that Starmer has made, he was not learning from those people who know how to be Prime Minister. He came in with an extraordinary arrogance and disregard for the job of Prime Minister and for the people who he should have been listening to and leaning on. And, you know, those people who have done best for him, like in foreign policy, are those very people who know how to do it. He's gone back to some of Prime Minister Blair's people, Jonathan Powell, for example, on foreign policy. Many people would say that he's got foreign policy wrong, but
he has.
In general,
Jonathan Powell
credibility and confidence in foreign policy, Why? Because he's been leaning on good people. In domestic policy, it's been an incoherent soup, a pudding without a theme. And, the person who, it's like a manager of a football team. If everyone is off with their own plan and they're not meshing together, it is the coach's fault. The Prime Minister is the coach of Team United Kingdom, and he is the one person who produces the plan, and that is what we need, because it's not just his future, his government's or Labour's future. It is democracy's ultimately.
It is
future.
But at the moment he's in the relegation zone, and he doesn't show any signs of getting out of it. I'm afraid.
He's in the sacking zone. The thing is, there's no other manager around. You can't import a foreign manager, a whizzy German or a whizzy Spaniard or Italian to take over the British national team, They might have a very good Prime Minister in Italy, but you can't get Giorgia Meloni into Britain.
Funny,
so
I was
it's a different game to football.
I was just thinking about her. That would be great. I think she'd be a tremendous Prime Minister. But listen, Sir Anthony, thank you very much indeed. Sir Anthony Seldon, political biographer and historian of Downing Street. An incoherent muddle, I think is how he described Keir Starmer's Prime Ministership so far.